Center of Peace Research. And along with the Malviya Center of Peace Research, this webinar, the second day webinar, is been organized by, in collaboration with Gandhi, Smriti and Darshan Samiti, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Last evening, we had a wonderful meeting, three lectures actually, from three different continents, from Russia, from Ireland, from India, and we talked about solidarity. So today is the second day of the webinar where we have given opportunities to young scholars, upcoming young scholars, to take part in this webinar and throw light on the pandemic and the solidarity problem which a small virus, invisible virus, has brought to the world. It has come so quickly that the world, which was experiencing globalization for the last 30 years, immediately the process stops and people are stuck wherever they are. So the whole process of globalization can be scuttled by an invisible 4-micron virus. So the solidarity question which is at stake, every country is looking inwards and trying to save its own people and its own country. So on this context, I would request Ved Vyas ji from the Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti to throw some lights on this webinar. Thank you.
Professor Mishra, this very important and significant subject of importance of human solidarity in the context of the global pandemic that we are facing. You see, why solidarity is important in the critical sense is that ever since we have been having the solidarity, I find, like, I will tell you my practical experience as having, say, people who are in my Facebook friends from all across the world. More and more people are trying to come together and asking how their people are, how their families are, so that they can it's kind of a solidarity that is important. In fact, some time back I was talking, in fact, one of the speaker who will be joining us from Madagascar, one of the initial stages of lockdown here in India, she sent me a message that I pray for all your family members from this pandemic. What is important at this stage, we will introduce our first speaker, Ms. who is doing her PhD from the Banasthali Vidyapith. When in the context of the pandemic, is that why I wanted to intervene was that my own father is in a very critical condition because of this situation, COVID-19. And you see, before COVID-19, I knew Jyoti for quite some time. Has been our common mentor has been Professor Vidya Jain, who has been the professor from Rajasthan University, but we haven't spoken much. But you see, Jyoti has also been in the hospital and she is now recovered from the COVID-19 and she is with us. Wonderful to see you, Jyoti, that you are now looking good and fresh. But this, you see, the whole situation, we talk almost every day. She has been sending me messages. She has been asking me about my father's health and all. And today also, when like my father is in really critical, bad condition. So even then, like in the morning, we spoke at length almost for 20 minutes. We spoke on what is the situation. And it's not just that. It is when we are talking of global solidarity, each one of us. There is this famous, in fact, I think probably Devika will, I was talking to Devika Mitra and probably she will speak about that, the solidarity of the shaken. There is this famous Czech philosopher who has talked about the philosophy of the shaken. When we are all afraid of this virus that is engulfed all of us, which and without any wall, Whether you talk to someone from Zambia, whether you talk to someone from Belize. Yesterday, I was interacting with a young researcher from Belize, a very small island in the Caribbean, and he was very concerned about the increase in the number of cases. Then there is this young researcher. In fact, he could not join because there is a lot of flooding in Sudan. Muhammad Mirgani. Ever since he knew about my father's thing, almost every day he has been sending me message. He has been asking me, over the voice call about the father's health. You see, someone whom you don't even know, that they brought us together. It would be really refreshing to listen to each one of our young scholars today on the importance of human solidarity in the context of the pandemic. Thank you very much, all of you, to who have cared to join us in this with Gandhi, Smriti, and Darshan Samiti and the Malviya Center for Peace Research. And I'm sure we will be able to take this whole idea of the importance of solidarity further, not just in the theoretical perspective, but in a real practical sense through compassion, through love, through empathy, and through the mutual understanding that each one of us exists, the importance of human interdependence. So, as we start, I think we have the privilege of having Miss Jyoti Singh as our first speaker, who is doing her PhD from PhD from the Banastale Vidyapit. She is basically a student of political science. Jyoti, please start.
Each one is given 7 minutes time. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Good evening, sir, and greetings and salutation to everyone present here. I am grateful to Vedabhyas sir for providing me with this opportunity and to letting me to share my practical experiences in this global platform. Since we all know that the COVID-19 has created a pandemic situation, as and it has impacted not only the socio political economic life, but it has impacted the cultural and psychological aspect of human beings. We as human beings are not only affected with the economic slowdowns and like growth and development, but as a human being we also need a kind of moral support and care and love empathy from others as well. I would like to share my practical experience of being a corona patient and recovered successfully from coronavirus. That would be helpful in creating a environment of human solidarity. I would like to tell you all that not only me, but my entire family got affected from coronavirus. And before that, it was like as it has been shown in the newspaper and in the news channels that it created some fearful situations among us. But when I got when I tested positive, I realized that the other way to handle this situation would be with a positive mindset that still we can cure this, we can handle this, because in my family I was taking in charge of each and every individual. My father was very serious. I had my grandmother, she is 80 years old, and still I was hoping that no, we can fight this coronavirus. It is not that much fatal because earlier we all were keeping well and we had a good immunity system. So we when we get admitted, we I saw there the most two three important things I would like to share is that since we all know that there is not such a particular vaccination, yeah, some but authentic vaccine has not been uh, introduced to the world. But in hospital, they were giving us simple basic medicine like paracetamol, vitamins, and antibiotic tablets. And what we were made to do was taking those medicines and proper food, following a proper routine and taking proper rest. And within 10 to 12 days, I find that we tested negative for corona, and we get back to our home, and now we are doing much well. We are feeling much better. Another this way, I think this needs to come up on the in the news portal or in the global platform, that we don't need to panic so much, as it has been shown by the news channel that every day this much 29 million cases has emerged. It has emerged, but the recovery rate is also there. So no, with I'm not telling that we cannot deal with this with the scientific manner, but yes, we can. But another alternative, I have seen, is the humanistic approach, the holistic approach, the moral or philosophical approach, which connects people, which gives some boost to people to fight with this pandemic situation. Because here uh, we are privileged, we belong to privileged class, but I have also seen people in my locality, like driver's family and servants family, they also got affected from corona. They also tested positive for corona, and they had taken this home quarantine option, because uh, this we see that this inequality in income and this poor and rich gap, so they were not able to afford the hospital charges and all, so they stayed back in hospital. And when I talk about Indian context, then people are not taking it very seriously, like talking about the poor or downtrodden marginalized section. So they are taking it very lightly, and they're saying that no, this is viral kind of thing, we can heal it. And I've seen that uh, without following much of the measures, and with by protecting and supporting each other, they have also got tested negative for corona. So what, from my experience, I can say that uh, by maintaining social distance, by having proper medication, taking proper rest, we can deal with this thing. And we need solidarity in sense of empathy, respect, understanding, and support for each other. Otherwise, the whole thing is impacting everyone's life. Like, people are getting depressed, they are getting isolated, they are getting uh, mental health illness day by day, and the insecurity is increasing in everybody's life. So to deal with this pandemic situation, even whether it is in India, US, or South Africa, or many countries, people must be facing with all these insecurities. What will happen next? So, to connect each and every dot of the entire world, I will say that follow the rules, but you can also help each other and stand for each other by not physically, if you are not able to physically present or help, but you can virtually, through this use of technology or mobile, you can support each other. Like we are seeing one of our sir, Veda Vyas sir, is facing the problem, having his father tested positive for corona, but from being a responsible student or being a responsible human, what from our side we can do is to support him, to boost him, that yeah, we can fight with this. If another common logical point I want to put is that if coronavirus was it meant to take our lives, then nobody would have been recovering with speedy, like nobody would have recovered. Like my grandmother, 80 years old lady, has recovered from coronavirus. So there is a hope that taking proper medicine, rest, and etc., we can face this, and we can fight this. So
Jyoti, 1 minute left.
conclusion, okay, sir. Okay, sir. On concluding note, I would like to tell you that we can follow the Gandhian way, the philosophical way, the moral way of fighting with this corona, we have to stand for each other. And with my practical experience, I can 100% assure that we have to stand for each other. We have to boost each other that yes, we can fight for this, because otherwise it will create that uh, gap between rich and poor. We will not the accessibility of hospital is not available to each and everyone. So it is now imperative that we rebuild our society on a humanitarian ground and deal with this pandemic like situation. Thank you.
For giving your experience of corona. So now I would request Mustaqul Haq Ahmad Sikandar. He is a writer activist based in Srinagar, Kashmir, to give his views. Mr. Mustaq.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll be speaking solely about the human solidarity. So, solidarity, as the concept goes, we have witnessed it that the solidarity was always there among the individuals, but the corona destroyed the whole economic security that most of us had, and the capitalism, particularly that rules the world, has never witnessed such a fundamental challenge that the corona posed it today. And we certainly came to live by this fact, and we came to the fore with this fact that we can certainly exist without the MNCs. In these long 8 months, we have existed without MNCs and food chains. But particularly, what the solidarity certainly for us means that we need to have much greater value-based kind of education to overcome the impediments that our greed, hedonism, and materialism certainly poses to us. And women certainly are the worst hit during this corona. But solidarity examples we witnessed time and again when there was distribution of free food kits by different NGOs, by different individuals who were helping out those who had been worst hit by the corona, whether it has impacted their economy, whether they have been directly the victims of the disease. So it created a kind of a fear psychosis among the majority of the population, and we witnessed that how many impediments and obstacles were faced, particularly by the lockdown created in India by the migrants, particularly who were stuck, and the laborers. But before the corona, we also witnessed that there were a number of severe problems on which majority of the humanity had turned a blind eye. Like we had the cyber wars, we had the challenge of climate change, and then there were financial crises. So the corona made us to witness that our limitations are many, and then certainly we need to spend more money, and more budget allocation needs to be done for healthcare rather than for building up arms stockpiles and other such spend on arms and ammunition. And then certainly, and India has an answer to it, because India believes in a value of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that the whole world is one family. So this solidarity of Vasudeva Kutumbakam as a value needs to be once again revived. So the pandemic that has engulfed the whole world made us come face to face with two types of problems. First one is the economic one, and then other is the social one. And then there has been a response to this pandemic, the crisis that the pandemic created, and it was in the form of the institutionalized NGOs, as well as the common people who in their own ways try to help those in distress. So the consequences of pandemic were many. We witnessed the migrant crisis, the joblessness, the collapse of the healthcare system due to the rush of a huge number of patients, and education certainly was impacted very much. And then violence also escalated, particularly the domestic violence. So pandemic is a part of the universal kind of problems that we all are facing, that include the climate change, the gender injustice, the violence, the water crisis, the food security issues, the crony capitalism and its issues that we are witnessing daily, poverty, illiteracy, as well as the media, the role played by the negative role played by the media. But why didn't we talk about the solidarity earlier? It's again a very pertinent question, that why solidarity now in the times of Corona only? Why not before that? So there are few reasons why the solid human solidarity was not caste issues. We have ethnic race issues. We have other kind of violent conflicts, and then also the populism that has been going on the whole world, that has resulted in in the breach of this solidarity, human solidarity. And here Mahatma Gandhi and his Hind Swaraj comes to our for our safeguard, or it offers us a solution, because Hind Swaraj certainly is a vehement critique against the modern civilization, and stands for Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that the whole world is one family. And certainly Hind Swaraj needs to be read, as it has solutions to the present crisis that this civilization
Please
and
conclude.
capitalism has made us to come to face with. So solidarity, we are supposed to take steps for realizing the same. And in earlier also we had institutions that still are existent, like the UN, the SARC, and other transnational civil resistance movements. But certainly, due to these three, four things that I have enlightened, like the elite corruption, rise of populism, and other such impediments, it was not realized. So the impediments again to the present day human solidarity include the technological kind of issues, because again we need to understand that technology certainly is not value neutral, and educate, and we have been just making our students literate but not educated. And then capitalists are investing a lot of money in, particularly in education and healthcare. So both of these things are becoming kind of a class privilege, the healthcare as well as the education. And then we have in every country power elite and politicians, and then also religion is being used to divide the masses. And religion for Gandhiji and for others, particularly in South Asia, can also be a solution, because no religion teaches us to divide people. It always stands for human solidarity. It has, every religion has these universal teachings that see the whole world as one brotherhood. So the solutions. Now I presented the impediments, and now the solutions towards the human solidarity. That how we intend to achieve it. They include the decentralization of the institutions, particularly of the UN, and then the hegemony
Please
of
conclude.
uh, like the US and others need to be overcome. And then people certainly need to be educated, and also we need to strengthen the civil society kind of movement. So these are my four solutions towards realizing the human solidarity. And thank you for your patient listening. And it's here that I conclude my
Thank,
presentation. Thank you.
thank you, Mustafa ji. Now, next speaker is Victor Sofia Jr., BSc Political Leadership and Anthropology from the University Catholic University of Malawi. Mr. Victor, please.
Uh, Thank you very much, O. It is a great honor to be part of this very important webinar. It is very important. It's an honor because I think what we're discussing today is very important, considering the tough times that we're in as a people due to the coronavirus, as the previous speakers have already alluded to. There's not a single human being across the globe that has not been affected by this pandemic. And unfortunately, this pandemic has negatively affected our social setting, our geopolitical setting, and it has not spared any of our economies across the globe. So it is very unfortunate, because it is in times like these that it is easy for people to lose hope and to despair. It is in times like these that most people will get anxious, others will get depressed, and there's a lot of mental health problems that come with such a pandemic. And this depression and anxiety is mainly caused by fear. And this fear is understandable and is justifiable, because the times are indeed uncertain. As a people, we're not sure what tomorrow brings. Every day comes with itself different news. But however, as justifiable and as understandable this fear may be, At this point in time, I want us to reflect on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who once said, and I quote, he said, and Dr. Martin Luther King, if you all know, he was heavily influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. So Martin Luther King did say that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear, end quote. And of course, he made that remark because of the racial segregation that they were experiencing then. But I would want us to reflect on these words in the light of the pandemic that we're faced with today. I would want us to explore the deep meaning and the importance of solidarity during the pandemic, which I believe that can only be achieved through love. Love is the only vehicle that can really motivate us to propel to true solidarity and this craved victory against the COVID-19 pandemic. You see, love is the only human factor that has got the utmost ability to drive out fear. It is only when fear is driven out of the human heart that hate can be driven out of the human heart. And when hate can be driven out of human hearts, that's the only time that people can truly experience sincere solidarity. So most of the fear being fought today that is causing anxiety to many people is because a lot of people are losing the essence of love. People are now being forced to socially distance from their loved ones because of the coronavirus. Countries are closing their borders, a problem which I bemoan personally because I'm afraid that this is the kind of problem that would be a breeding ground for narrow nationalistic philosophies which are against globalization, which for the past 30 years we fought for as a human race to achieve. So, and we have seen that other people in other sectors have linked the coronavirus to a particular group of people, an issue that has led to discrimination, and unfortunately, it has given unnecessary prominence to xenophobia. See, love is the only vehicle that can lead us to experience true solidarity through this pandemic. And solidarity is the only weapon that we have against the invincible enemy that we have against, named COVID-19. If we are at any point to lose sight of what we're up against, we are bound to lose the war. Our enemies are not the Westerners. Our enemies are not Africans or the Easterners. Our enemies are not the Americans, nor are they the Chinese. Our enemy is COVID-19, and we should never at any point lose sight of that. This is not the first time this is not the first time the world has gone through such a pandemic. We've been here before. We've had other pandemics in the past, and we were able to overcome. And now we're faced with this COVID-19 pandemic. I do not see why we should not overcome it if we have deep solidarity and we have got deliberate, coordinated efforts, and love should be at the center of all our efforts. Before we go further, it might be important even to now describe what this love is that I'm talking about. This love is where everybody of us, from individual to countries to nations, we choose to put the welfare of others before us. And it is in the same spirit of achieving solidarity as we fight COVID-19 that I've been able, myself, in my own country, Malawi, I've been able to see young people going out into the rural areas, into the villages, to donate face masks and hand washing soap and hand sanitizers to the elderly and the most vulnerable. This is the love and solidarity that we're able to experience even through a pandemic. It would be good to have the same acts of civility amongst nations, amongst different countries, where those countries that are considered more wealthy would reach out to those countries that are considered least wealthy. As per the old creed would teach us to say that to each one of us according to their ability and to everyone according to their need. Most developing countries, at this point I should say, have been hit more by poverty due to the collapse of their economies during this pandemic than they've been hit by the virus itself. My point is that love will bring us together, and in togetherness there is strength. As long as we stand together in love, holding each other's hands, we can overcome anything, including COVID-19. In conclusion, I would like us to take time at this point to just reflect on this truth as we take arms against our common enemy, which is COVID-19. And this is a truth that has stood the test of time. I'm going to give a quote. During the 1961 address to the Canadian Parliament, President John F. Kennedy said, "Geography has made us neighbors, history has made us friends, economics has made us partners, and necessity has made us allies. Those whom nature has joined together, let no man put asunder. What unites us as a people is far greater than that which divides us." And that ends the quote from JF Kennedy. So it is during this time of the pandemic that we all have gotten to intensely experience our oneness. We have seen that the pandemic has not spared any nation. It has not spared any creed. It has not spared any race. It has not spared any economy, from the richest to the poorest. This pandemic is not looking at color of any man or woman's skin. This should remind us that no matter what, we are the same. And yet, when times, I remember the speaker that spoke before me did say that we don't talk about solidarity when we don't have a pandemic. It is very unfortunate that when there is no pandemic, others would suggest that other human beings are better than other human beings. So at this point, let love and deep solidarity take us to take us to victory against COVID-19 and victory against anything else that stands against us as a human race. I think thank you very much for your time and attention, everybody.
The next speaker is Hans Yen Fobe Monk, Master Graduate School of International Peace Studies, Soka University, Japan. Now, Fobe Monk will speak.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Japan right now, so it's 11:04 p.m. Is it okay if I share my screen? I prepared a presentation.
Please do, please do.
Okay. And if you don't, oh, okay, great. Can everyone see this? Can everyone see this?
Can see it now.
Okay. So my paper is called Fostering Global Solidarity in Times of COVID-19 through Ecological Literacy and Climate Action Activities. And I'll just start. So this was my leading abstract, and it's also a leading question for me. The founder of my school, Mr. Tsunesaburo Makiguchi, asked a question in his book, A Geography of Human Life, that he wrote in 1902, and I quote, "What then is the purpose of national education? Rather than diverse, complex theoretical interpretations, it is better to start by looking to the lovely child who sits on your knee and ask yourself, what can I do to assure this child will be able to lead the happiest life possible?" And it led me to question, what is happiness for human life? And from various research and various psychological studies, there are many ways of understanding this. I just want to make sure this works. Okay. So oh, great. Perfect. So for some people, happiness means your family. It's not working very well, so I apologize. For some people, happiness means friends. And for certain people, it could be personal achievement. So there's really no, in the micro level, there's really no definitive way of understanding what happiness means for individual. However, on a planetary level, on a macro level, it could be very different. So this photo is called a blue marble, and it was acquired in 1972 by NASA on December 7th. And this speaks a lot of stories, a lot of macro stories that we can talk about when we're teaching children or teaching people how to understand human relationships and human connectedness. So one question that I often ask people is, how do you think the planet Earth will feel about actions today? Because we need to understand that planet Earth is a living host and that it has many organisms that live with us. So what I want to introduce as a solution towards human solidarity is the introduction of how to think mechanism, introduction of eco-literacy and systems thinking approach. If we see ourselves as one planet in a scientific way, we understand, number one, the principles of interconnectedness and interdependence. It is not escapable from reality. There are complex webs of needs for every species on the planet, and it is important for us to understand and seek to comprehend other people's needs. There are evolutionary advantage in terms of diversity and building resilience through diversity and the understanding of oneness and wholeness. So when we link climate change with COVID-19, certain factors or variables we can discover is, number one, there are environmental determinants of health, which causes the various COVID-19 responses, meaning COVID-19 in every body is different because of how we were raised, how we were born, and the geographical location that we lived in. Inflammation and stress responses also varies, and this affects vaccine development. And this is also why nation states are having a long time, doing trials with different people. Deforestation decreases water and air quality, which makes sustaining life much more difficult. Irresponsible hunting and consumption of wildlife was the beginning of the discovery. Improper disposal of food waste contributes to infectious diseases. Supply waste, such as face masks and other plastic waste that we've been using, and it's unquantifiable how much waste we have produced through COVID-19. Water contamination, plastic use, chemical use, decreased survival rate of vulnerable nations specifically. Mental emotional distress, broken communities, the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. So it reveals our broken international relationship with the relationship of China, India, UK, and the US in terms of economic tide banding. And basically, fundamentally, it is a distraction away from peace building and sustainable development goals. So one way ecological literacy and system thinking approach thinks about is ecology of conflict and war during COVID-19. There's a fundamental disrespect for human dignity. There are many cases of that in hospitals. Dehumanizing language and propaganda. There are many fake news going on. Fear-mongering during times of greed and grievances. There's gaining power through exploitation, suppression, and targeting vulnerable communities, such as the Black community, and the hoarding of toilet papers, as some of them. So we want to overcome this as one humanity. To overcome this, we must first recognize the patterns, then cultivate a new mindset in humanity for the sake of ecological and sustainable development, and that requires a training of systems thinking approach. So ecological literacy in very basic terms is the ability to understand the natural system that makes life on Earth possible, learning the principles of ecological communities, collaborative communities, let nature become our teacher, and to prioritize ecological needs over human needs. And in short, I call this less ego, more eco. So what is systems thinking approach? Basically, system thinking approach is a way of thinking. First, you explore interrelations, the difference between context and connection. Exploring perspectives, understanding that people have different perspectives because they come from a different system. Exploring boundaries, the scope of the problem, the scope of the information and processes. And you can adopt this type of thinking into any field of studies in terms of technology, ecology, medicine, education, what have you. So I believe along with eco-literacy, systems thinking approach strategies encourages diversity as strength in evolution, and that cooperation, global cooperation, fundamentally enhances for global survival of every community. So one example that I think of in terms of education is seeing Earth as an open and closed system, understanding or just knowing a basic structure of what is the biosphere, what is the geological cycles, what is photosynthesis, why do we say that Earth is an open system for energy and a closed system for matter, natural cycles, birth and death, etc. And these are all kind of in Indian, religions and Indian philosophies as well. So these are ways to understand. And by observing charts, these practical phenomenons, we understand the interaction between lives, and it helps us to cultivate systems thinking approach. We also want, individuals learning to be independent thinkers, from individuals to community. So ecology also talks about the level of organization from individual, one tree, to a population, a same species, community having two or more species, and an ecosystem having all these sentient and insentient beings living harmoniously together. So by expanding our awareness as one human, we can learn to appreciate nature's systems of operation. So one way to think about that is Beirut, Lebanon, the area of explosion. So one way that I tend to cultivate people at my school is to disregard the nationalism, disregard the locality, and just try to imagine the impact of what that one explosion can have on the planet, on the geography, and on the species of that area. So let's say 27,000 tons of explosive material, which is 1 kiloton of weaponry. So in case, to get a perspective, one nuclear weapon in 1940 will be about 18 kiloton. So, amino nitrate, I'll encourage students to study what is amino nitrate, why is it explosive, why is it even in that area, and to ask relevant ecological questions such as what are the impacts to our environment and how do we change this ecology? How do we change the system? Another part of eco-literacy and system thinking approach is how do we, achieve 2030 UN SDGs? So independently, when we look at them, if we have kind of a shallow understanding of eco-literacy, we might just think they're independent problems. But when we have a comprehensive ecology, when we look at COVID-19 pandemic, we start to see that they're all interconnected, they're all interdependent, and this kind of encourages the vision to see one event, any kind of event, having global impact in both visible and invisible places. So efforts that I've done at Soka University, because another portion of my paper is about climate action activities. So the activities include, founding of Climate Action Soka last year with some of my fellow friends. And what we did was we just have workshops in school. We have dialogues, movie screening, eco-friendly products giveaway. We have logistic team trying to survey local convenience stores on their average plastic use and try to write petitions. We have over 400 members, and we're trying to, make a change both as international and local and Japanese students. And this year, we also want to push for the slow school approach, which is this is part in my paper, Alice Water, the slow food movement. And we wanted to do this thing called edible education, whereby we have edible schoolyards. We want to build a garden in the school. We're trying to work with the SDG office on our campus so that we can have a culture whereby we can grow our own food and we can be in touch with nature and, get our own efforts right back. And this
Conclude.
Yes. So in conclusion, please give me a while. The goal is to cultivate thinking strategy and supportive actions where human securities cannot belong. And there are many things we can do from that. And then in conclusion, we want to empower students to help guide national leaders to voluntarily limit their freedom of action. And we can then rekindle our gratitude for our planet, our immediate communities, and focus on transition towards sustainable systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How do I stop sharing?
Malviya Center of Peace Research. Tom is a PhD scholar doing PhD in conflict resolution in East and West. He had an illustrious career in the corporate sector, working in GE company and other big multinational companies. Now I request Tom to start his address, please. Tom.
Thank you, Professor. Can you see me?
Yeah. Carry on.
Thank you. My video is not good. So I'll just speak.
Switch off the video and only talk in audio. Tom.
We're unique
Switch
time.
off the.
History is being made. And ask, what are we learning? Enlightenment at the end of the 1700s. And he came up with a number which we should act if we want to have a. He says first, Act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Essentially, this means do unto others, do as you would want everybody else to do to you. So if I want to steal and everybody else steals, the world would be a terrible place. We saw examples of this in COVID, where people in the West went out and bought tons of toilet paper. It was absurd. Kant also said, act as to treat humanity, whether in your own person or another, always as an end and never as a means. This is very compatible with the views of Gandhi.
Tom, you switch off your video and only talk in audio.
I think Manojji,
Yeah.
I think there is a real problem with his Tom's both video and audio. Let's go to the next speaker, and once he comes back, he can. Let's not
Okay.
waste time. Devika is, I think, there. No, next side.
Devika, you can start. Tom will speak later.
Devika, can you hear us? Devika Mitra. She is a research scholar from Bengal, Bardhaman University.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please start. Please start quickly. Yeah. Please.
Devika, you can start.
Sir, 1 second. Hello, sir. I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
And we saw examples of this where Singapore, for example, neglected them.
Start.
Yes, sir. I'm sharing my content. Hello, everyone. I'm Devika Mitra, pursuing PhD from Bardhaman University. First of all, I would like to thank the organization for giving me such opportunity to present my paper. Now, my topic is human solidarity and COVID-19, a reflection. You can see that the topic is contained twofold, that is human solidarity and COVID-19. Now, what is solidarity? Solidarity holds in a phrase that one for all and all for one. It is a value-oriented fundamental principle which inheres the mutual respect, cares for indifferences, view, opinions of an individual to with others individual for the sake of community, for the others individual, and as a whole for the society. The terminology solidarity has a positive connotation.
With brutal
It
efficiency.
means
Covered
that
and arguably used this.
that it opposes the egocentrism and reflects the altruism, what that is the ethical principle of maximization of good for the maximum people in the society. Solidarity also concentrates on the well-being of I to thou. That means that from aham to sarvam is the main concentration of the solidarity. The solidarity of the concept can be found in different countries in different name. In India, that is Vasudeva Kutumbakam, and that is the world is one family. In Africa, that is Ubuntu, that you exist, I exist, and you exist. In others country, it has different names. The concept of solidarity can be found in various religions. In Christianity, it is named as the Golden Rules. In Islam and in Buddhism, there is a different name, but the concept is same. That is the interconnectedness of every individual, and not only human beings, but also non-human beings in this cosmic family. Now, the global symbol of power of solidarity can be seen as we look back into the history. That is Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., and Mahatma Gandhi. Of course, from the beginning, we see them as a power of solidarity for the as a global ambassador. Now, the second theme is the COVID-19 and its impact. The humankind is facing a serious threat, that is COVID-19 or coronavirus. As we look back into the history, it is not a new phenomenon, because according to World Health Organization, it is regarded the sixth pandemic in this during the 100 years. And rather we can see the H1N1, Ebola, plague, influenza, etc. The COVID-19 and its impact is not only physical, but it is also mental effect. And as a whole, it's a societal effects and also an economical effects also. The effects not only confined to any individual of a particular country, but irrespective of countries, class, religion, and creed, it's affect each of us. But the recent pandemic pushed to some situation like we are panic, we are tense, we are anxiety. We have seen the new term social distancing, self isolation. Due to this, there is a mental instability of each and every human being. So, the human mind has a tendency to think that in this dilemma, how to respond the current situation, how to cope up with the new situation of this pandemic. Now, the question to think that in pandemic situation, should we treat ourselves or me myself as isolated from the others? If we think that is a kind of two approach we can face, first of all individual approach and the holistic approach. Now you should think yourself which one you would like to endeavor. Now, third question, is there any need of human solidarity to fight against coronavirus? Now, I would like to present that role of Indian perspective of human solidarity in during pandemic. The As we all know, the irrespective of demographic context, it's affect each and every human being. So the Vedic concept of Vasudeva Kutumbaka is reflects the world is one family. It's not a new principle. The principle is already in the Upanishad, the last part of the Veda, that is an ancient epic of Hinduism. This, the principle of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, possesses the fundamental unity of all existence and the interconnectedness of all life forms, which based on mutual care, respect, love, empathy, compassion. The Indian cultures and tradition emphasis in this concept that it looks a holistic and integral approach towards this current situation. Unity of all existence in this cosmic family regard their main motto. Despite individuality of each one of us existence, we are should think that we are the members of one cosmic Earth. Now, I would like to conclude that everything in the world coexists with relations and interdependence. In present scenario, there is no room of isolationistic and exclusiveness. If we think that those countries are affected, we should isolate from others people or other. It is obviously it is not a right process to endeavor. Indian thoughts give value to the mutual respect, care, love, and harmony. Vasudeva Kutumbakam can usher peace and humanity in this world. As in India, there is a various religions which stays along with various cultures and which can usher peace and for this global pandemic. And we have to habituate with the practice of healthcare through vegetarianism, as we know that there is an inherent value of non-human being and nature also. And we should keep in mind there will be an environmental consciousness should be followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Devika. Manoj ji, can you hear me, Professor Manoj? Hello? Hello? Hello?
हाँ
Yeah, actually, there is a request. Our researcher from Madagascar, she's having a problem in connectivity. I think she's there. She's requesting if she can speak because regular problems in connectivity from Madagascar.
Okay, I am just telling her that now our speaker from Madagascar, Rasa Filaboli Rasitos Rindarani Rinia from Antananarivo University, Madagascar will speak now.
Are you there, Pani Rianso? I think that's so. She's sending me WhatsApp messages that she's.
Yeah.
But I think her name is there.
She's there. She's there.
Can you hear us, Pani Rianso?
From Madagascar?
Because she's sending messages that she's having problem on internet connectivity. Okay, in case she's there, we can ask Pooja to make her presentation. Pooja. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Hello,
you can make
everyone.
your presentation.
So I would thank you for this opportunity, and I would like to share my screen for the presentation. So yeah, is it visible? Hello. Hello.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So basically, I'll start with the topic which says human solidarity in times of global pandemic crisis. And my take on this topic is from the perspective of media. What is the role and initiative taken by the media itself? And it's not just limited to a particular sphere of the continent, but I'm talking it globally. But I would take examples of some media take from Indian perspective, from the examples from India. So before going ahead, I would like to highlight that this global pandemic crisis has made a devastating effect on everyone and their life, their goals, their livelihood, and everything. And it has also challenged and disturbed the UNESCO Sustainable Development Goal, which has hampered several SDGs. They're like SDG 1, which calls for no poverty, SDG 2, which calls for no hunger, and several others. Along with this, it has crushed health security for millions of people and called for destroyed economic security for almost every nation in the world.
And it has beyond all this, it has caused death for millions of people across the world. So along with that, we know that COVID-19 has not spared anyone in its route. It has infected people like Prime Minister of United Kingdom, professional athletes, several Hollywood, Bollywood, worldwide celebrities, and it has shown that it has no regard for whether a person is poor or rich. So this pandemic has pushed everyone to maintain social distancing and global lockdown, which has distanced everyone from one another, yet it calls for human solidarity to stand for each other, and not just hand in hand, but while staying distance, we can through the platform of media, which is still connecting everyone around the world. Like we have right now, we have speakers from Madagascar, Japan, and we are all connected through the medium of media. So with this, like whether we are confronting a pandemic like this, or global warming, environmental crisis, income inequality, racism, or gender-based violence, solidarity depends on how we all come together. It is defined by how we understand and enact our responsibilities to and relationships with one another or each other. So solidarity, as it is implied, is we are all in this together. But I would suggest that like it is more than that. Solidarity is not just limited to one person, because we are all from a different background. So we cannot say that we are all in this together, because while compelling this idea, this view of solidarity ignores the differences and potential conflict between the needs and values of different groups around the world. It overshadows how the impact of this crisis is not equal among different groups. So, and moreover, I would say that this solidarity is not just limited to human solidarity, but also takes the equal concern toward nature, environment, animals, and other beings. And at this time of global crisis, the world demands for solidarity at deepest level. So this is very important, and that's where the role of media plays an important role. Actually, media plays a crucial role as a bridge between people or things in need of solidarity and people who can extend the help. It is very important to highlight the role and initiatives of media in this global crisis, because it is an asset that can contribute a big part in encouraging, bringing, or invoking the solidarity we need right now. So it's like very crucial how we are playing the parts with media. But we say that media is like one of the greatest assets of current times, and it requires, and for that, through media, solidarity requires relationship, intentions, and actions grounded in explicit ethical and political commitment, to which media is the primal key. And as we all know that major media outlets are mass media or digital media, and beside that there is another one, that is movie. But right now we are not talking about movie, but I'm taking the concern of mass media, that is broadcasting media, which includes radio, television, broadcasting news channels, newspaper, magazines, etc. And another one, that is digital media, which includes social media, video sharing platform, information-driven media, electronic documents, electronic books, web pages, websites, etc. So that's where the role of media is important, because media can mirror the relationship between the people in need and who can help. Media must bring out the relevant and right kind of information or issues in open for people to connect with. Like unless and until I don't know what is happening to people in Lebanon or in America, I could not be able to extend my solidarity in any way. So that's where the media plays a very crucial role. And that only when the media build a strong relationship of solidarity among other people would have intentional commitment to help the needy people. And along relationship and intention comes the action for solidarity, which bridges the gap, which overcomes the gap between us versus them. So, as claimed by Canadian philosopher and media theorist Marshall McLuhan, media is a medium of communication that stores and delivers information or data to a larger audience. And while doing so, this media as a medium itself becomes a message. So, as a powerful force that is shaping the world around us, um, that is shaping the world around us and shaping our experience and the world view to around ourselves, it is very important how we take up the responsibilities of media toward us. Like during the sudden
Pooja, you
uptake
can
of
conclude.
Okay. So, sir, I would just skip into the major ideas of what mass media is supposed to do. It has supposed to reduce the stigmas, prejudice, and inequalities. It has to be it has to be effective and adhere to. It has to help in adherence of effective preventive measures, and it can help in bringing resilience towards different groups of people across the age or socio-economic background. However, in mass media in India has majorly failed. It has overshadowed or overlooked many of the important issues which could have impacted basic human solidarity among people, like the cases of migrant people walking their home while there was no transportation service and everything was under lockdown. Then mass media is not presenting the how the economy of the country is failing down, and it has been ignoring the major news about people affected in Assam or Bihar due to the flood. And there was plea of several students which were to appear for the exams of NEET and JEE. But the mass media or broadcasting media has majorly failed into that. However, that's where the digital media has played its role, and it has expressed the solidarity in a global form. It has overcome through a digital platform where we know that everyone is connected to people across the world. It has helped in bringing solidarity among different income groups by providing
Please
access to
conclude.
digital sources. Yeah, that's my last point, sir. That digital media has also focuses on social impact, economic responses, and recovery to enable solidarity at all levels. So that's my concluding remark that this global solidarity is not a moral imperative. But my point of view is that it is in everyone's interest, and that which we have to come together to overcome this global crisis. And when we talk about this digital media, where everyone is a digital citizen, everyone has a digital citizenship, not in just physical form, but in digital form. This global village requires everyone to participate equally, and as a global citizen, we have to look for the accountable and credible source of information and stand in solidarity with everyone for a healthy tomorrow and a healthy today and a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja.
I think
Do we?
from Madagascar, Manojji has not been able to join because of the technical
Okay.
problems. We have the Mustafa.
Yeah,
Was next.
Mustafa. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hina.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir. Am I
please.
audible?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Am I audible? I'm just going to share my screen first. Is my screen visible? Hello?
Not right now.
Hello. Hello.
Hello? Is my screen visible?
Yes, please continue.
Yeah. So, thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. So, in my presentation today, I am going to make an attempt to make the experiences of Muslim women visible because they have been ignored by the culture or by religious groups. So in my presentation today, I am going to talk about those experiences which are particular to Muslim women and that they have encountered in this pandemic. So starting with the quote by John W. Scott, he says that one should always look for the invisible because visible is seen and what is seen gets the privilege of being written. So whatever we read and we write is about those persons who are available in our experience. But what about those people who are not available in our experience? So my aim is to talk about Muslim women's experiences today. So I'm going to take four issues which I think are not common to all Muslim women, because Muslim women in itself is not a monolithic group which I can say is one size fits all. There are different problems they face and they have different solutions. But there are four issues that I believe that a group of Muslim women might have faced in this pandemic. So starting with the first issue, women being unmasked for ages. So unmasked, this word came to the surface in 2014 when the documentary of the same by the same name got highlighted. So this unmosque means those people who are not allowed to go to the mosque. Even if they are allowed to go to the mosque, they don't feel that they are welcome. So there are different stigmas attached. So women who are disliked because women are disliked because they go to the mosque, because it is felt that their prayer is private and they need to worship inside their homes. So when this pandemic hit, men were all devastated because they said that, oh God, what will happen? Our faith is in danger. When we are not going to mosque, we are not listening to these sermons, the religious sermons, which are very much important. What will happen to our faith? So Muslim women around the globe were silent because they have been shunned inside their homes and not allowed to enter the mosque. Even if some mosques which have given the space to women for worship, the spaces are comparatively smaller, and they are not, the spaces are like that, they don't have the accessibility to listen to the khutbahs, the religious sermons like men have. So when this pandemic hit, the male privilege was lost, and all the men and women were stuck inside their homes, and there was no option other than to offer namaz or salah or do the khutbahs inside their home. So what happened was men and women came together to worship, and not just the men and women of a particular of a single family, even the men and women of from the neighborhood came together and they started worshipping. So my question is, when this can happen in the pandemic, that men and women can worship together, listen to the khutbahs, have the religious knowledge together, why can't this happen after this pandemic is over? Now the second point is Muslim women's negotiated identity. Now, Muslim women who are educated, that means they have some position in the society, they have some power. But even a Muslim woman who is educated has to oscillate between two identities. They have to look for the third spaces, because when they are going out, they are called modern. They wear the clothes of particular kind which are not liked by the Muslim community. And when they are inside the homes, they have to change their identity. They have to cover their heads. They have to maintain the Islamic morality. So the burden is completely on their shoulders to be culturally right, to be a good Muslim, to be a good daughter, to be a good wife, to be a good daughter-in-law, so on. So the whole responsibility is on the woman. But when this pandemic hit, the women were stuck inside, and they were doing all the household chores, and they were not getting enough time to do what they have been doing earlier, like reading, writing, doing what they have been doing in the public sphere. On the other hand, men who were also stuck inside their homes, but they it didn't affect them. They were given their share of privacy where no one was allowed. They were there doing work. But Muslim women, they had all the responsibilities on their shoulder. So as it is written, that it has been found that the pandemic has similarity in its impact for the women in their familial lives, despite their being variously situated and resistive due to the gender, religio-culturally defined patriarchal social behavior of the place like Pakistan or in India towards women. So it is a completely different topic. I mean, I can go I can go and explain it in length that how can the change in our mindset or in our laws make the world a better place to live for women. And the third issue is poor conditions of Muslim women in Islamic countries. Now we know that sexual abuse or domestic violence has increased in this pandemic, but when we talk about Islamic countries, the laws are so stringent that Muslim women face more problems than the Muslim women from these Islamic countries face more problem than the Muslim women from secular countries. So the issue remains largely unaddressed in the Middle East and North Africa region, where the violence in largely patriarchal societies is particularly acute. Here, the COVID-19 pandemic intervenes concurrently with the large-scale conflicts, uprising, and economic depression. So, in Saudi Arabia, for an example, there is no thing as called marital rape. And in Kuwait, there are no laws that criminalize domestic and sexual abuse against women. In Iraq, husband has a right to punish women and reprimand her in case she is not obedient. So it takes us to the concept of hermeneutical injustice, which is talked about Miranda Fricker, that hermeneutical injustice occurs when a subject who is already hermeneutically marginalized, that is, they belong to a group which doesn't have access to equal participation in the generation of social meaning, is thereby put in an unfair disadvantage when it comes to making sense of a significant area of their social experience. So there is no shared meaning of marital rape in Saudi Arabia. What will women who face it explain? How will the women from Saudi Arabia explain it to others what marital rape is? Because there is no concept like marital rape that exists in Saudi Arabia. So women have faced it and they have nowhere to go because laws are so strict. So there is a need to make changes in the laws that are patriarchal. And for an example, in Lebanon, where government is giving relaxation to the heads of the societies that have been affected by the COVID. But since women are not the head of the families, they are not giving any. They have not been given any relaxation. So this pandemic asks us to think about how they should be included in the decision making. Now the last point is hypocrisy over women's veil. Now I am not pro hijab, but I am pro choice. Now if you see this image that is at the right, you see these are the women from Paris Fashion Week 2020, I mean 2020. So you see how is it different, how are they different from the women who cover their faces? But because of the stigma attached to the Muslim woman, the burqa is banned in many countries like France, Denmark, and the women have been called like the England's Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the women who cover their faces are like letter boxes and or bank robbers. So this is quite degrading to the women. When if you talk about if you will listen to the interviews of the women who cover their faces, you will see that how happy they are with this pandemic, because they feel that at least now when everyone is a niqabi, everyone is covering, so at least we are not getting weird looks, we are not being called terrorists, we are not being called someone who are like letter boxes. So this pandemic has given a chance to these so-called liberals who think they are liberal, and they tell women what not to wear, because telling a woman not to wear is also patriarchal. You have to give the space to women to decide for themselves what they need to
Please
wear.
conclude.
Okay, so with this pandemic, we have come to know that everyone is wearing a mask. I'm not saying that the mask is a substitute for, I mean, the burqa is the veil, face veil is the substitute for niqab. But we have to understand that we have to give the freedom, the space to these women who cover themselves, and we don't have to judge them. So concluding, this pandemic has exposed many loopholes which were avoided earlier. There's a need to work on them. When we talk about global solidarity, we must also consider global ethics. However, there are some values that are required by the virtue of being a human. So we must consider them, the experiences of Muslim women. We must have solidarity with these women, whatever they want, because there are different problems and these problems require different solution. So When we will consider them and have solidarity with these women, we will move towards SDG goals 2030 that all talk about gender equality, good health and well-being, peace and justice, and strong institutions, etc., etc., which are very much required to transform our world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hina, for giving a feminist perspective to this pandemic. Is Tom is there? Can Tom conclude his initial speech? Tom?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Please carry on.
I apologize. We had a power cut and my network died. Everything happened together. Just as I was going to complain about Donald Trump, just a coincidence. I was talking about the US and looking at their performance. And the US, whereas traditionally it had been a multinational country, under Donald Trump, it has been more focused on America first. And some people argue Trump first. He ignored the science and the warnings, and he arguably used people as a means to get re-elected. He disbanded the pandemic response team in 2018 and even withdrew from the World Health Organization during the pandemic. And I've never been comfortable with the US as world's policeman. However, I feel the virus could have been more controlled if the US had been more actively involved. Trump and America violated Kant's categorical imperatives over and over again, treating people as ends, as means, not ends. And the US has 5% of the world's population and over 20% of the world's cases. It has been an absolute catastrophe, and the economy is ruined as well. Taiwan is an interesting country. We must learn from Taiwan. Unlike China, they acted as soon as they got the first warnings. They started boarding planes from China to check passengers. They quarantined, used contact tracing, travel history, medical history. They also got support of the population for their actions. Those in quarantine were giving food and medicine from the government. Taiwan obeyed Kant's imperatives and had great success. In a population of 23 million, they've had 500 cases and 7 deaths. And this is an island off the coast of China with tens of thousands of people traveling to and fro all the time. India is the world's largest democracy. A population close to China's on 1/3 the area. So it was always going to be very difficult to control COVID. India acted early in imposing a strict lockdown, and Prime Minister Modi instructed people to wear masks or other coverings. There was no politicization of mask wearing here. There were issues with migrant workers that other speakers have talked about. India, going forward, is one of the world's major producers of PPE, masks, and vaccines, and it has sent supplies to other countries. Something we must realize. Michael Tomasello wrote Why We Cooperate, and he argues that those people who cooperate and work together are the fittest and survive. We're all interconnected. With this comes responsibilities. We see who the important people are, the local shopkeepers, the medical workers, the cleaners, although many people turn to online shopping. Billionaires like Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Musk made tens of billions of dollars while many went bankrupt. This is actually very dangerous, and this is very dangerous for society because people will do that for which they are rewarded. At the end of the day, we all need each other, even including China. While India produces many vaccines and other drugs, it also interacts with China and relies on China for certain ingredients. Non-violent ways to work together. We've seen that human security is most important, and we can never just look at it as the poor relation of military security in future. We must care for each other and we must care for the environment. Gandhi wrote that if we indulge in a vice, get sick and are cured by a doctor, we must change the vice or behavior that caused the illness. He actually was complaining about doctors just curing people. So COVID has been a huge wake-up call for humanity. We must change the way we are. We must change the way society is structured. We will survive this, but it's not certain that we can survive an environmental catastrophe. And that's it. Thank you again. Apologies for the network crash.
Thank you, Tom.
Also, Professor Manojji, Pankaj has a few slides of that. Our friend from Madagascar, she sent me on WhatsApp, and it seems there is real poor connectivity over there in her country. So, Pankaj, is it possible if you can share something? Otherwise, we will have to have the question answer and close it. This is Fani Rianso from Madagascar, and she has been doing a good work on ecological literacy. I don't know if we can see anything in this.
Yeah, it is something on Gandhi, Smriti.
I don't know what is that. No, no, no. I think there is a problem. Pankaj, I think we have to stop it because I don't see what exactly is that. I don't know.
No,
Uh,
this is something from the Gandhi Smriti.
no, 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 no. She has used our logo because it's a Gandhi Smriti. She's basically, I think she's talking about the COVID and uh, definition and the situation in Madagascar. Okay. She's
It's
talking
written in the
about
article form actually.
yeah, and this is basically in the context of Ubuntu. She has tried to explain the whole idea of human solidarity in the context of Ubuntu. But nothing, no problem. I think we should continue the program. Possibly, if someone has
Okay.
questions, and then
Any
do
question
submission.
answers we can continue with that.
If there is no question, you can make your concluding remarks, and we can close the
Okay.
meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Vedaji. So for the last 2 days, we have been having a massive celebration on the COVID-19 and the human solidarity. So suddenly the world, which was facing a kind of interconnectedness and globalization, in a matter of 3 months, the world has become inward looking. So we are supposed to say that we do not know the future, how the world will look at. If a small virus can make us look so inward, so the concept of human solidarity is at stake. This is the only planet Earth where there is life. And in this planet Earth, if we don't have solidarity among ourselves, we are not going to have a bright future in the long run. By saying this, I would like to thank our host, the Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti, who has been an excellent job for the last 2 days. Their team, uh, Dr. Vedavyas Kundu and the team has made a wonderful effort in trying to make this 2-day webinar on human solidarity in the time of pandemic possible. Yesterday we had four important speakers who spoke on this COVID-19, and today we had young scholars who shared their views on different ideas from across the world. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will carry on these kind of programs in the future and try to include everybody in this kind of endeavor. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Manoj